Are you letting self-doubt hold you back from doing what you know you're here to do? In this edition of Thursday's Thought, I answer this question from my IG fam. How can I defeat self-doubt? Tune in and learn why self-doubt is totally natural, the 3 reasons why we experience self-doubt, and 4 steps to defeat self-doubt. If you have a question that you want me to answer on the show, just hit me up on social media at I am Ruby. And whether you're new to this podcast or you're a loyal thought leader, please make sure you take a moment to download a few episodes, drop a rating and a review on iTunes, because this shit helps. Now it is time to dive into self-doubt in this edition of Thursday's Thought. Hey, thought leaders, I'm back and I'm hitting you up with a question from the Instagram fam. So I'm going to be answering a question from Alejandra Salgado.rtv. Alejandra, I dedicate this episode to you. She posed a very amazing question in my weekly Q&A sessions that I do on Instagram. If you're not following me there, follow me there at I am Ruby. Every week I host a Q&A session, and she asked how to defeat self-doubt. And I love this question so much that I wanted to do a whole episode on it. So I didn't answer it in the Q&As, and I want to answer it here because it's a multifaceted question. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can approach this, but what's most important is to first understand why we experience self-doubt. So before I hop into that, I want to share that I experience self-doubt all the fucking time. It's something that I believe we as human beings, we just experience this shit. And it's not about getting to a place where we experience zero self-doubt. I believe that it's about getting to a place where we can recognize the self-doubt and move past it and do things to defeat it. Because as you continue to grow and as you continue to evolve, you're going to continue to encounter new challenges and new levels of yourself and new sets of limiting beliefs and fears. And that means that you'll always have this opportunity to encounter self-doubt as long as you are growing, as long as you are evolving, as long as you're stepping outside your comfort zone. You're going to experience self-doubt. So the goal isn't to get to a place where you don't experience doubt at all. I think that's bullshit. The goal is to get yourself to a place where you can recognize the self-doubt for what it is, acknowledge the truth behind it, and then take action to move past it. So let's talk first about why we doubt ourselves, right? And there's a few reasons. I'm going to share 3 different reasons why we doubt ourselves. So why do we experience self-doubt? Well, number 1, it's our beliefs and our programming. So you've heard the term limiting beliefs, our fears, our programming. I've used this analogy before on the podcast, and we're very much like iOS systems, like iPhones. And we run on programs, and the majority of us are running on outdated programs. We haven't had our software updates, and these programs that we're running on are programs that that were inserted at a very young age, quite possibly by our parents or those who raised us, by society, by our teachers, by our temples and churches, by our religious communities, whatever it is. So how we were raised and what we were told, this is what creates these beliefs and these programs within us. So, for example, I grew up in the Indian culture, and Indian parents tend to believe that, at least the Indian parents in my parents' generation and before, things are changing now, but they tend to believe that, the number 1 jobs in the world are doctor, engineer, and maybe real estate and finance. Like, these are the jobs they want you to go into. And if you go into anything else, then you're not going to be successful. And so this becomes this program that we carry. And I did carry it for a while. And I went into psychology when I was in college, and I didn't feel good enough, but that's what I was passionate about. But I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel like, oh, maybe I won't create success with this. And then I ended up having a career in banking for a long time. And funny enough, over a decade later, here I am back in the mindset work, the stuff that I really fucking love. But it took me this long to get here because of this self-doubt, the doubting myself in the direction that I really felt called to move in because of the beliefs that I carried from my upbringing. And, these beliefs can vary. Like, I've had a lot of clients who have unfortunately had parents that have said, you're not smart enough to do this, or you're not good enough to do this. And unfortunately, they carry those beliefs on into their programming. And then that becomes self-doubt. Oh, I'm not good enough to speak in front of a room, or I'm not articulate enough to speak in front of a room of people. Who's going to believe me? And then we start to doubt ourselves. So the self-doubt can be stemmed from our programming, from our belief system. The second reason why we doubt ourselves is past experiences and failures. So maybe you've done something in the past and you failed. And because of that failure, you feel as if you're doomed to repeat it. So you won't do it at all. You doubt yourself anytime it's coming up. Maybe it's you were launching a program and you launched it and no one enrolled, or you maybe had one enrollment. And so you count it as a failure. And then you experience self-doubt the next time you're about to enroll for a program, right? Like, a lot of people experience this self-doubt, and it's because you're using your past experience you're leaning into your past experience as the truth. And it's not the fucking truth. It was just an experience. It's just something that happened, and you learn from it and you move on and you apply and you go forward. But we don't often think in that way. We often just let our unconscious mind, that part where the fear is embedded, to lead. And so we let our past experiences determine how we approach our current situations and experiences. Now, the third reason why we doubt ourselves is uncertainty. And I've talked about this on the show before. Uncertainty is totally normal. How can we be certain about everything, right? We can't. The world is filled with uncertainty. And if you're living inside your comfort zone, in that tight little box where everything is known and you're doing the same thing day in and day out, then cool, like, everything might be certain. But you still can't control what's outside of you, right? You can only control what's within you. So uncertainty is the only certain thing in the world, is uncertainty, right? So we doubt ourselves when we're feeling uncertain, and you're going to feel uncertain anytime that you're stepping outside your comfort zone. When you step outside your comfort zone, you're stepping into the unknown. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. So you experience this feeling of uncertainty, of not knowing what's going to happen, which then creates the self-doubt, right? Totally natural. Totally natural. It's natural to feel uncertainty and self-doubt when you've never done something before, never experienced something before. It's also natural and totally normal to feel self-doubt when you're about to do something that you've previously failed at. It's also very natural to experience self-doubt when you're running this old program that is not serving you in your current situation. So self-doubt in itself is totally natural. And this is why I was saying, like, the goal isn't to try and get rid of self-doubt altogether. I think that takes away our humanness. The goal is to be able to recognize self-doubt for what it is and navigate through it in a healthy way that's going to get you to the other side of it. Very much like fear. When fear comes in, you want to be able to navigate through it to get what you want. And self-doubt is the exact same thing. You obviously want the thing that you're doubting yourself to get, because you're thinking about this. So if there's something, like right now, is there something that you really want to do, to experience, to be, and you're finding yourself doubting your abilities to make it happen, or your abilities to see it through, or just doubting yourself, period. So think about that one thing, because I want to share with you now 4 steps to actually defeat self-doubt. Okay, I want to share 4 steps to help you defeat self-doubt. And this is going to work really well if you have a situation right now where you've been holding yourself back because of self-doubt. And I say this because I want you to fucking apply it right away. I want you to apply it right away, because I'm going to share with you 4 steps right now that are actually going to work. If you apply them, if you do them correctly, and trust me, you'll do them correctly. If you, all you got to do is follow the instructions, you're going to be able to defeat that self-doubt and do that thing. So think about what that thing is. And if you're not driving and listening to this, write that thing down, that thing that you've been wanting to do, that you've been doubting and holding back on doing, and holding back on taking action on. Okay. So you got that. Now let me dive into the 4 steps to defeat self-doubt. And the way I came up with these steps is I literally thought about, well, how do I defeat self-doubt? And I just deciphered these steps from what's actually worked for me. Because like I said, I still experience self-doubt. And over the years, I've gotten really fucking good at defeating it, because I've gotten really fucking good at acknowledging it. So that leads me to step number 1. Okay. Step number 1 to defeat self-doubt is acknowledge the doubt by putting it into words. And you can put it into words with this prompt. I'm telling you, it's super simple. You ready? I doubt ... That's it. Acknowledge the doubt by putting it into words. See, so often we feel self-doubt. It's a feeling, and we don't take the time to acknowledge what that feeling is and acknowledge what it's actually saying. And when you refuse to acknowledge the self-doubt, like what it actually is, then there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to navigate through it, because you don't know what you're trying to navigate through. Like you can't defeat it if you don't know what you're trying to defeat. So I doubt ... I doubt my ability to create a successful launch. I doubt my ability to enroll clients. I doubt my ability to create the income that I want to create. I doubt my ability to support my family. I mean, what is it that you doubt? What is it? And maybe it's a multitude of things, and that's okay, but list those things out. If it's more than one thing, then list those things out. I doubt ... Step number 1, acknowledge. Step number 2 to defeat self-doubt is acknowledge what you know to be true. I do this exercise so often with my clients because it has been such a pivotal exercise for my own life. Because what happens is we often get caught up in all the negative shit, in the shoulds, in the shit we're doing wrong, in our self-doubt. Like we get so caught up in that, we forget all about what we know to be true. And let me tell you, we know a lot more than we think we know. And it's not until you actually sit down and do this writing exercise that you'll actually be able to understand this. So you need to, step number 2 is acknowledge what you know to be true. And here's the writing prompt for that. Okay. What I know to be true is ... So examples of that, and I'll use examples, personal examples. So what I know to be true is I am resilient as fuck, and I bounce back failure after failure after failure. What I know to be true is I am supported, truly supported. What I know to be true is my voice matters. What I know to be true is I am deeply passionate about my purpose and will do anything to see it through. You can probably hear the conviction in my voice. And if you're watching the video version of the podcast, you could probably see it in my face as I was speaking it. And you have that conviction within you too. It's just when the self-doubt hits, we tend to get wrapped up in that self-doubt, which then pushes us into that place of fear, and we retract. And when you retract, you step out of your conviction and you forget all about all the shit that you're either really fucking good at, all the shit that you know to be true, and you need to reconnect with that in that moment, because that's how you start to see what's actually true. Because the doubt is often, the doubt you feel is real. Okay, self-doubt is real, but what you're doubting is often a fabrication, like a false version of your reality. Again, like these limiting beliefs that aren't really real. They're just convoluted stories from your past. So step number 2 is acknowledge what you know to be true by using the following prompt. What I know to be true is ... Now, step number 3, identify one piece of action that would defeat your self-doubt. Just one piece of action. What I've noticed from working with hundreds of clients is that a lot of people get wrapped up in, or get stuck in the action phase because they get overwhelmed with all the shit they feel they quote unquote should be doing. And yes, maybe you have a list of like 50 things that you need to do, but what is like the one fucking thing, just the one actionable item that if you took it, it would defeat the self-doubt right there and then? What is that one piece of action, right? So for me, I'm trying to think of a really good example to give you. Okay, when I wanted to create my 3-day event, Amplified Soul Live, it was 2016 when I started planning the first one. And it was a really big dream of mine. And I was filled with self-doubt. Like, who am I to be doing this? And can I really do this? Can I really put this on? Do I have the ability, the gifts to run this 3-day event? And there's so much doubt. Am I really going to be able to make this happen? Am I supported enough? Am I this? Am I that? And it was insane. And I remember the first piece of action, right, was for me to announce it. I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to put it out into social media, make it known, tell people that I'm doing this, and really just make the commitment in that way. And so that day I made the announcement, hey, I'm planning my 3-day event. I don't remember what the announcement said, but that was like, it felt like a good first step for me. And then I was like, okay, good. This feels more real. This feels more real. I move on to the next step. What's the next one thing that I can do to start defeating my self-doubt? Because just because I put it on social media now and made it real doesn't mean that the self-doubt goes away. Like, okay, now I feel more doubt. Like, now I've put it out into the universe. Now everybody knows about this. Are they actually going to come? Do I have what it takes to bring people into the room? You know, a whole other set of self-doubt a whole other set of doubts came up. And so I thought about, what is the next piece of action that I could take that could start to overcome the self-doubt? Well, start planning it. Well, what's that one piece of action that I could take to start planning it? Because if I just sat with the start planning it, I'd be overwhelmed with all the different things I need to do. So it was like, create an outline. So I started creating an outline. Book a venue. I booked a venue. I mean, it's about chunking it down into one actionable item and focusing on that one actionable item, defeating the self-doubt right there and then focusing on the next piece of action. So of course, step number 4 is take action, right? So after you've identified that one piece of action that would defeat your self-doubt, take action, like actually fucking do it. And this is quite often, from what I've learned with all my clients, is the action piece, again, is the toughest part. And it's also the most rewarding, because it's the part that's the piece that actually defeats the self-doubt. It's like, think of it this way. If you sit with self-doubt and you're letting yourself think about all these things that you're doubting. You're feeding the self-doubt. It's like this machine, you're feeding it. But if you take an action that's actually going to prove that doubt to be wrong, then that's going to defeat it. So why not put your energy into taking action, right? Take the action, defeat the self-doubt, and keep going. So I'm going to repeat these 4 steps to defeat self-doubt. Step number 1, acknowledge the doubt by putting it into words. I doubt ... Step number 2 is acknowledge what you know to be true. What I know to be true is ... Step number 3 is identify one piece of action that would defeat your self-doubt. And remember, just one single piece of action. That's it. Just one single piece of action. And then step number 4, take action. Do the thing. Do that one piece of action. Like actually fucking do it. So remember how I said to think about that one thing that you really want to do that you've been doubting, that you haven't taken any action on? I want you to apply these 4 steps to that, to defeat the self-doubt that is holding you back from doing this thing that you really want to fucking do, or being who you really want to fucking be. You're showing up in a way that you really want to fucking show up. Like apply these 4 steps and then report back. I want to hear from you. And thank you to everyone who has been reporting back when I actually say, hey, report back. And because I love hearing from you and I love hearing how things have worked or not worked. So fill me in. Let me know. Hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at I am Ruby. You can also head on over to my Facebook page. Just search for I am Ruby, facebook.com/I am Ruby. And let me know how this goes. So it's time. It's time for you to stop letting your self-doubt rule. It's time for you to stop letting yourself listen to your self-doubt and instead start to acknowledge the doubt, start to acknowledge what you know to be true, and start to take some real fucking action so you can defeat your self-doubt and do what it is that you know you're here to do. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Thursday's Thought on today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you dig this and you are a purpose-driven leader who is seeking a coach and mentor to take you to that next level, I would absolutely love to hear from you, and I would absolutely love to support you. So head on over to my website, rubyfremon.com. Go to the Work With Me tab, hit apply, and apply to work with me. And let me be your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader, your biggest mentor. Because there's nothing more in the world that I love than to support purpose-driven leaders in rising up and activating their voices and creating fucking movements. If you dig this episode, please share it with a friend. And be sure to download a few episodes. Help me get into the charts. Drop a rating and a review on iTunes. And again, if you have any questions and if you apply these 4 steps or you have a topic suggestion, just reach out to me on social media at I am Ruby. And then, of course, check back on Monday for a brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.